Welcome everyone to another episode of Power Core Productions and Podcastings. I'm your host, Jerron Harrington, back to hit you with another video. And today, we are going to be entering into the part 1 finale of Naruto Yokai. What if Saskue Uchiha was a girl? Part 7. We have finally reached the part 1 half of a Naruto series in this What If, and I have truly gone into deep detail for this story, and I truly hope you will enjoy it. Thank you to everyone who has supported the reboot of this series. It truly means a lot to me, and I hope that you guys will enjoy the finale to this one as well. After we finish with the ending of this story here, soon we will be starting Naruto Yokai Shippuden. That will cover the Shippuden part of What If Saskue Uchiha Was a Girl, so I do hope you will stay tuned for that as well. Tomorrow, like I stated before, we'll be doing a What If one-shot that is already going to be pre-made and uploaded ahead of time, since tomorrow I will be focusing on putting the finishing touches on the Naruto High School DxD movie series Part 3, Sins of the Past finale. That will be coming out on Friday evening. So stay tuned for that and everything else that is to come with Power Core Productions and Podcastings. And next week, we'll be getting back into other what ifs that we have on the channel, mainly being what if Deku was a Power Ranger, as we will wrap up Season 3 of My Hero Academia with that story. So as always, thank you to everyone who supports Power Core Productions and Podcastings. I cannot do it without you guys. You make the channel grow, you make the core grow, and I cannot do it without having you guys' full support. But anyway, without further ado, we're going to get straight into today's story. So as always, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. As Tsunade returned to the village hidden in the leaves, Naruto and Satomi tried to continue on with their lives, as if everything were fine and everything were normal. But truthfully, things could farther be from the truth. On Satomi's mind non-stop since she had returned was her inability to defeat Itachi Uchiha, her failure, everything that she had been working for up until now, only to realize that the gap between them was still that much bigger. Unknown to Naruto, a brief conversation was held between Satomi and Itachi. Itachi whispered in her ear what had she been doing all this time. Had she truly been focused on her vengeance, or was she sitting around playing ninja? You see, unknown to Naruto, as he lay unconscious during the night of the Uchiha massacre, Itachi gave scathing words to Satomi. He told her the only way to achieve the power that he possessed was to kill her best friend. It didn't take rocket science to realize that Itachi was referring to Naruto. If Satomi truly wanted her revenge, if she truly wanted to avenge her clan, then it would have to come at the death of Naruto Uzumaki. Satomi had been fighting with this for a long time, not knowing how to go and how to proceed. On the outside, she kept a stoic yet warm approach with Naruto, with him being none the wiser as to what she truly felt. One night, as he lay asleep, Satomi was actually in his room. She had been in his room many a nights, a kunai in her hand. She didn't know what she would do when she got in the room during those nights. Honestly, she could never know. But she wanted to see. She wanted to see if she truly had that resolve. And every time she would fail. Gazing upon Naruto's sleeping face, kunai at the ready, she just couldn't bring her heart to be filled with that much darkness. For all of the evil and the vitriol that she had been susceptible to, for everything that Itachi had put her through, For how dark her heart had become, there was still a sliver of light, and that sliver of light was more than enough for Satomi to hold back from committing such a heinous act against Naruto. Eventually, she would stop with contemplating the idea of killing Naruto, deciding ultimately that she wouldn't want to obtain power that way, not from the way of a person who would be so evil. She had resolved that she would beat Itachi in her own way, that she could become just as strong, if not even stronger. And from there, that was how her life proceeded. But now recently, she had seen the results of living that lifestyle. It didn't give her anything. For as strong as she had become, for as skilled as she had become, she still found herself lacking. And this would show during her training with Naruto. As the two would spar, her hits would become more hostile. They would add a bit more sting to the blow. Naruto, Kakashi, and Sakura could pick up on this. Eventually, during one of their sparring sessions, Satomi would attempt to use the Chidori. Naruto, in response, would attempt to use the Rasengan, almost as if on instinct. As the two were preparing to clash, Kakashi would get in between them and throw them each in opposite directions, as he could sense the lethality of that Chidori. It was one that seemed as though it were aiming to kill. Satomi's Chidori would crash into a tree, piercing it a little as she would pull it out. Satomi snapping back to her senses, she would rush over to see if Naruto were okay, only to be gut punched with a sickening reality. Satomi had been putting everything she had into that Chidori, and the best she could do was pierce a tree. Naruto's Rasengan blew 4 trees out of the ground when he collided with one. The force and the impact truly showed the disparity in their power. Kakashi would try to talk to Satomi, but instead she would simply brush him off and leave. Kakashi calling off the training session early for the day, as he would go to find her, sitting alone on one of the building tops. "What do you want, Sensei?" "Nothing much, really. I've just come to see if you are alright. When I taught you the Chidori, I taught you it as a way of self-defense. And it seemed as though you were aiming that Chidori with a bit more lethal force than usual. I mean, I'm a bit surprised that you would go that hard on Naruto of all people. It was just training, Sensei, nothing more. Is there something that's been bothering you? Is it about Itachi?" "Satomi, I lost to Itachi. You saw that firsthand. If someone like me, a Jonin, considered among the elite of the village hidden in the leaves, couldn't do anything to Itachi, what were you expecting to do? What did you think was going to happen?" I don't know, Sensei. I thought trying to win by falling on your own sword often only leads to more disasters, Satomi. And what's worse is when you think that others will fall on their sword just the same. You thought that when you fought Itachi, if you just poured everything you had into your attacks, if you gave it your entire best, if you left nothing lacking at all, then that maybe, just maybe, you would be able to take him down. Satomi, that is a foolish way of thinking. And just what was I supposed to do, Sensei? Tell me, what am I supposed to do? Satomi, I don't know what to tell you. Like I've said before, there are shinobi in this world who are younger than you, who are much more stronger than I am. I was in the Anbu Black Ops with your brother Itachi. He was the youngest of us all and the finest that we had ever seen, even more skilled than myself. If I'm being entirely honest, even if I trained my hardest, I doubt that I could beat him. What I'm trying to say is, you want to improve where you are lacking, but you must go about it the right way. If you keep moving with a clouded mind, you're bound to fail. And please, don't lose sight of what's in front of you. You have those who truly do care about you. We have both lost a lot in our lives, but I think we've met people who can fill in those gaps. That is all. Kakashi would leave Satomi from there, allowing her to simply think to herself. As nightfall would creep upon the village hidden in the leaves, 4 mysterious figures would make their way into the village. As Satomi would still be sitting in her spot of isolation, 4 figures would appear in front of her, introducing themselves as the Sound 4, the workers of Orochimaru. Satomi wouldn't be in the mood, and when they attempted to make their advances, she would attempt to fight them off. Satomi would prove to be far more skilled than they were expecting, even forcing them to have to go into their level 1 with the curse mark, showing that she were not the only special pet of Orochimaru. They would inform her that they had come by order of Orochimaru, for they knew that she seeked the power, that she seeked the way to get vengeance for her clan, and to defeat her older brother Itachi Uchiha. Orochimaru had told them the information involving Satomi, and with their silver tongues they crafted a scathing tale, showing all of her weaknesses and her flaws as they beat down on her mercilessly. Orochimaru gave them the specific orders to make her feel weak, to make her feel vulnerable, to make her feel useless by any means necessary. And they did just that. Finally, after beating her into submission, they would give her an ultimatum: to join with Orochimaru or to see Naruto die. These words were more than enough to catch her attention. She wasn't sure if Naruto could handle all 4 of them, even if she weren't as strong. She didn't doubt for a second that they wouldn't go to where Naruto was and kill him. Satomi was now left in a tough situation. She would consider her options. She could attempt to fight them off, maybe get help, but she and Naruto would most likely die and they would flee before they got the chance to. And then there was the thought of her and Itachi, remembering that she didn't have enough hate in her heart, that she truly needed to become stronger if she was going to stand a chance. With that, Satomi would reach a conclusion. She would tell the Sound 4 to give her time. As she went back to the Uchiha mansions, heading over to the compound as she walked through the streets that were the Uchiha district, she would see one of the apartment buildings that Naruto had been staying in since he moved to the district. As she rushed over to see how he were doing, she would see that he was sound asleep at a desk. As she walked over, she could see a letter. It was an apology letter. It only broke her heart even more. But she knew what she had to do. She would give Naruto a simple kiss on the forehead, telling him that everything were going to be fine. As she would leave, she would go and pack a bag, looking upon her room for what she thought would be the final time. She would take a single picture with her, a tiny photograph of both her and Naruto at the Winter Festival. She would place it in her pocket as she would begin to leave and make her way out of the village. As Satomi would be leaving, she would soon come across Sakura, who would be doing a night patrol. Sakura, seeing that Satomi had her bags packed, she were a lot more perceptive than Satomi gave her credit for. "So, what are you doing with that bag, Satomi?" "It's none of your business, Sakura. Just leave me alone." "You don't have any missions, so you're obviously not doing anything that's assigned by the village." "Your point?" "Look, I don't know completely everything you've been through, and I know you have a lot of these secrets and all, but whatever you're doing, you're going to hurt Naruto. Will you just shut up and leave him out of it? This has nothing to do with Naruto." "Yeah, and that's why you're running away, huh? Let me guess. You came across some obstacle or some challenge that you can't get over, and rather than staying to face it, you're just going to run away? That's enough, Sakura. I'm just calling it like I see it." "Well, don't, because you don't see anything." "Really? All I see is the prideful Uchiha running with her tail between her legs." "Do you want to fight, Sakura?" "I don't know. Maybe I do. You up for it?" "I'm not in the mood." "Oh, am I supposed to be scared? What are you gonna do, huh? You gonna try to kill me like you killed Naruto?" "I would never kill Naruto." "Oh yeah? I saw that look in your eyes during practice. That wasn't the look of someone who was trying to train with their teammate. You looked like you wanted to kill him." "You know, Satomi, honestly, you don't deserve someone like Naruto." "What was that?" "You don't deserve Naruto. If anything, he's too loyal to a stuck-up bitch like you." "Oh, if Satomi wants it done, I'll drop everything I have to do to go save her." Isn't that you? Weren't you the one who needed saving in the end? Aren't you the one who always has to be saved like a damsel in distress? You would watch what you say to me. No, because you need to hear this. You can make every selfish decision you want. That's fine. I don't care what you do personally. But what you're doing right now, you're going to break Naruto's heart. Because if anything, that boy is too loyal to you. You know what? You're right. So that's why I'm done. I'm done with you, Naruto, Kakashi, this whole village. I'm done with you. You know, I tried. I tried really hard. I tried to find a place here. I tried to find a home with Team 7. And for a while, I thought that was good enough for me. But you know what? I know who I am. I am an Uchiha. I am an Avenger. And I am not going to be held back anymore. The weak link to our team was you. Everything was always you, because you tried to be just as good as me, but you never are, Haruno. As far as I'm concerned, You were always and will forever be the second best. And you would be wise to never talk about Naruto to me ever again. As Satomi and Sakura would stand face to face, Sakura, knowing full well that this might break out into a fight, she would attempt to rush Satomi. However, before she could do so, Satomi would already appear behind her, chopping her clean across the neck with enough force to knock her out, laying her on one of the park benches as she would continue her walk, a single tear leaving her eye in the process. As Satomi met with the Sound Four, they would pledge their allegiance to her, Satomi wondering what the change in attitude was all of a sudden. The Sound Four would remark that the moment she agreed to leave, they were to become her personal henchmen, servants to her. With that, Satomi and the Sound Four would make their way out of the village, leaving as nightfall would reign over the land. The next day, Sakura would be awakened by Kotetsu and Izumo, who would be checking to see if she were alright. Sakura would quickly make her way over to Lady Tsunade to tell her what had happened. Tsunade, surprised and shocked to hear that Satomi had left the village. Not too long after, she would get word of Shizune and her team that had been taken out by a group who had seemingly had connections to Orochimaru and were carrying with them what appeared to be a coffin of sorts. Now putting the two and two together, seeing that Orochimaru was behind it, she would summon her newly lamented Chunin, Shikamaru Nara, as he would have to put together a team to go after Satomi and bring her back. He had 30 minutes to round up any genin that he felt would be up for the trip, and they were to head out immediately. Shikamaru would first go to pick up Naruto. Naruto would be sound asleep and be none the wiser when Shikamaru knocked on his window. Naruto would open it, being a bit groggy, wondering what was going on. However, the moment he heard the news, his blood would run completely cold. He and Shikamaru would go rushing through the village to find anyone that they could bring along for the trip. They would eventually get with Kiba, Neji, Choji, Rock Lee, and Sakura. The 7-man team would be what they would have to do with for now. Shikamaru felt confident that with the numbers that they had here, they would be able to complete the mission just fine. Of course, he felt as though someone more higher ranked should be going, but Tsunade would explain that the village's resources were stretched rather thin. She was going to put in a contact as the village hidden in the sand owed her a favor, but it would probably be a while before backup would arrive, and Shikamaru shouldn't try to rely on that backup being there anytime soon. With that, Shikamaru would get everyone into position, noting that they were going to be going after 4 targets in particular. Their main goal was to bring Satomi back, and while he didn't like the idea, they might end up fighting in one-on-one battles. However, with a few extra people on hand, those could turn into 2-on-1s, which could give them the advantage. Naruto was antsy, to say the least. Sakura was trying to calm him down, but there was no doing it. Naruto already had the feeling deep within him. He was going to bring her back, and he was going to make the ones who took her pay. As the team would get going traveling through the forest area, the Sound Four would set traps, knowing that they were going to be close on their tails. When Shikamaru's group confronts the Sound Four, Jirobo would attempt to trap them all in his Earth Dome to suck away at all of their chakra, allowing his comrades to move on ahead. However, Naruto would not be in a time of games. Naruto would easily draw on the power of the Nine Tails, his eyes flaring with that of the Kyuubi, as he would create a Kyuubi-powered Rasengan. His aura alone scared everyone in that dome, as he smashed through it with one strike. Aiming straight towards Jirobo, Jirobo would attempt to take out Naruto, but it would be futile. Naruto would catch his hand and snap it completely, breaking it in every angle. With his other hand, he would take the Rasengan, fully powered, as he slammed it into Jirobo's gut. Naruto wasn't aiming for incapacitation. He was going for the kill. As Jirobo went flying across the forest area, the Rasengan doing internal damage, destroying his innards as he coughed up blood before falling to the ground. Naruto would tell Shikamaru that they needed to keep moving, and they would do so. As they caught up with him once again, Kidomaru would stay behind. However, instead of only facing Neji, he would end up facing Neji and Rock Lee as well. The 2-on-1 fight proving to be more than what the 6-armed shinobi could handle. Despite giving it his best and even entering into his level 2, Rock Lee, with his blinding speed of the inner gates, along with Neji and his Byakugan, proved to be too much for him to overcome. Rock Lee will ultimately perform the primary lotus, entering into his 4th gate, beating him all around the forest area before sending him straight to Neji. Neji, who would finish him off with the 8 trigrams, 64 palms times 3, giving it everything he had, as he were a great counter for Kidomaru and his abilities. With both Neji and Lee working in unison, Kidomaru would ultimately fall, being defeated and left for dead, as Lee and Neji would make their way to the others. As Shikamaru and his group would continually catch up to the Sound 4 over and over again, Kiba and Choji would be the next ones to get their fight, as they would take on the team of Sakan and Ukon. In the 2v2 battle, Choji would prove to be too much for Ukon to handle. Using the Akamichi food pills, he would go with the yellow pill, doing a considerable amount of damage. Finally, Kiba, along with Akamaru, would use the Man-Beast clone combo, with the Wolf Fang over Fang to defeat Ukon. The two brothers being left with no choice, they would attempt to use their summoning Rashomon to take them out. However, the combined might of Kiba and Choji, with their overpowering strength in taijutsu, would ultimately be too much for the two brothers to handle. Choji would be feeling the massive drawbacks of using the Akamichi clan food pills, as he would collapse to the ground as he had lost a lot of mass. Kiba would be checking to make sure that he were alright, although he and Akamaru would be doing a bit of damage themselves. Ultimately though, Kiba would still be taken over by Sakan, who would attempt to overtake his body, Kiba having no choice but to stab himself in order to force his parasitic enemy to leave his body once and for all. And finally, with a few more placed attacks, they would be able to send him down for the count. As both Choji and Kiba would be on the verge of collapse, they would have to wait for someone to try to get them help. However, thankfully, Neji would arrive, telling Lee to move forward while he would look after the teammates. Lee would respond in kind as he would keep moving on, soon catching up to Naruto, Shikamaru, and Sakura, as they would soon corner Taiyuya, who would be all alone. Lee and Naruto would grab the coffin, while Shikamaru and Sakura would take on Taiyuya, Shikamaru giving Lee and Naruto orders to book it back to the village. Naruto and Lee were preparing to do so, but before they could get away, Kimimaro would appear from nowhere, kicking the two away as he would take the coffin in hand, before rushing to Orochimaru. Lee and Naruto, knowing what they needed to do, would chase after it immediately, while Shikamaru and Sakura would take on Taiyuya. In this battle, Sakura would prove to be the good counter for Taiyuya, as she too was skilled in genjutsu, having had much more time to train with Kurenai, making her rather formidable, even with Taiyuya and her genjutsu summonings. Shikamaru having a partner would be able to strategize much better than in the original timeline, the two of them ultimately being able to come up with a strategy that could take out her opponents once and for all. Sakura would eventually be able to get close enough to Taiyuya. Sakura having a time to work on her physical attributes have now gotten a bit more stronger. Sakura would put Taiyuya in a rear naked choke, Shikamaru possessing her with shadow possession to add his strength to hers. Taiyuya would enter into her level 2 curse mark form. Using one of her kunais, she would stab Sakura in the abdomen. However, Sakura would show her own strength and resolve, as Shikamaru would pull down with the full might of his shadow possession. Sakura, fighting through the pain, would snap Taiyuya's neck, breaking it and killing her on the spot. Shikamaru would have to check on Sakura as she would be bleeding out, putting pressure on her wound and trying his best to hold out until backup would arrive. Lee and Naruto would soon catch up to Kimimaro in the fields. There would be no nonsense in this fight, Naruto being amped by the power of the Nine Tails, and Lee, who was now completely healthy, would engage with the Bone Shinobi in battle, the two of them giving it everything they had to take him down. His skills with the blade would prove to be formidable, Lee's natural speed being able to keep up with him as well, Naruto sending a barrage of his clones, attempting to overwhelm him with numbers. As the fight would persist, Kimimaro would soon be forced to enter into his level 1 of the curse mark, just to hold the two back and keep them at bay. Not too long after, Satomi would awaken from the coffin, Naruto relieved to see that she was alive. He would yell to her, telling her that they could go back to the village now, that everything was going to be okay. However, Satomi would simply look at Naruto, her left eye now being completely changed, with a dark pupil, with a golden aura. She would simply leave, running away towards Orochimaru. Naruto would attempt to run after her, but Kimimaro would attempt to stop him. But before he could, Lee would kick him away, Lee telling Naruto that he needed to go and save her, and that he would hold things off here, as Lee knew it was time to get serious. The Sand siblings would be called in for assistance. Both Kankuro and Tamari would help getting the injured back to the village. However, Gar would continue his way, soon coming across Rock Lee, who would be in the midst of his fight with Kimimaro. Rock Lee would open the 6th gate, the Gate of Joy, before performing the primary lotus, kicking him into the air before delivering a multiple barrage of kicks, moving too fast for even Kimimaro to keep up with, as Lee's entire face and skin had turned bright red, his veins ripping as his muscles were being torn in every fiber. Lee was attempting to crush and break every bone in his body, ultimately going for the finishing blow, as his right hand and leg would go in for the decisive attack. Kimimaro would shoot out his spiky bones through his chest. The bones would stab Lee in his arm and leg, doing much damage, but Lee would fight through the pain as he went crashing into the ground. However, before he could completely make contact, Gaara would pull him out of the way, as Kimimaro planned to launch more of his bones out of his body that would have impaled Lee and killed him completely. As a few had managed to protrude from his body, Lee's right leg and arm would now be completely useless, as Gaara would send him to the side, now being an ally to the village hidden in the leaves. He would take over the fight from here, as Gaara and Kimimaro would engage in combat. Kimimaro, now feeling the repercussions of the sixth gate, would be forced to enter into his level 2, as he and Gaara would engage in battle. Ultimately, Gaara would defeat Kimimaro, who had now taken more damage and punishment than he had in the original timeline, when Gaara would attempt to use the Great Sand Burial, crushing him completely. Kimimaru's sickness, along with his other injuries, would catch up to him, and he would ultimately die under the great fields of sand. In the Valley of the End, as Naruto would catch up to Satomi, Satomi would be standing on the head of Madara Uchiha, while Naruto stood on the head of Hashirama Senju. As Naruto would continue to call out to Satomi, begging for her to answer him, she would slowly turn to face Naruto. Satomi! What are you doing? Isn't it obvious, Naruto? I am going to get more powerful. Satomi, you can't do this. Why can't I? Are you serious? Do you know what Orochimaru is going to do to you? He doesn't care about you. Nothing you get from a bastard like him is ever going to be free. The only thing he wants is your body. The Sharingan. You know this. I am completely aware of that, Naruto. What the? If you're aware of that, then why would I go to him? Well, it's rather simple, really. Naruto, you and I, there was a time when I truly felt as though you and I could walk down the same path. But now, the more that I see things clearly, the more I realize you and I can never walk down that path together. We were always destined to go our separate ways. Naruto, do you know what Itachi told me that night? What? What did he tell you? He told me that in order to gain the power needed to defeat him, I had to kill someone who was closest to me. Do you know who is the closest to me left in this world, Naruto? That's you. Many nights, I had to fight. I had to fight the urge to plunge a kunai in your throat, Naruto. Do you know what that feels like? Every night, I feel as if there are two voices in my head. Do you know how hard it is to fight with that? To fight with two voices in my head? One that's telling me to keep you safe, and the other one that's telling me to end your life? Naruto, do you understand how much I have had to fight not to kill you? And I do it because I truly believe. Because I want to believe. Because I want to believe that there was a better way. But there's not, Naruto. You and I are not the same. It was my clan that got slaughtered, not yours. In the end, you're just an outsider. Naruto would be taken aback by her words. As she would try to leave again, Naruto would jump to the other side of the stone faces, reaching her as he pulled her back, holding her as he tried to make reason, as he tried to tell her that there was another way, that things didn't have to be like this. He tried desperately to get through to her, but his words wouldn't reach. Satomi listened to everything he had to say. She would calmly pull his arms off of her before she would punch him in the gut, punching him with every bit of intent. As she kicked him down below into the waters, Satomi would look down upon him. She would give him two choices. He could leave. He could go back to the village. There were two endings to this story. He goes back to the village. He forgets about her. He moves on and he focuses on his dream of becoming Hokage. Or he can choose the second ending, the one where he dies by her hand. Satomi reasoned that Itachi was after the Nine Tails. If she killed Naruto, the Nine Tails dies along with him, and that would put a wrench in Itachi's plans, and she would gain the power that was needed. So in either case, it was a win-win in her mind. Naruto would simply be awestruck. He could feel the intent in her blows, the intent to kill. Naruto would get back up on his feet. He knew that words were not going to reach her. The only thing she was going to understand was fist. As he got up and he looked straight up towards her, Satomi could see that look in his eyes. She knew he wasn't going to give up. With that, Satomi would try to go into her dark place. She would try to enter the darkest depths of her mind to do what she had to do. Naruto would rush up the mountain as Satomi would rush down, the two preparing for their epic collision in an area that laid host to one of the greatest battles in shinobi history a long time ago. As Satomi and Naruto would come face to face, the two engaging in a flurry of taijutsu, Naruto showing off the fruits of his training, everything that he had learned up until this time. Satomi as well, showing that she had not been slacking in her training, with her Sharingan fully activated and her body covered in the markings of the curse mark. Both she and Naruto would start what would be known as a dance of violence. They would trade blow for blow, kunai for kunai, shuriken for shuriken. Naruto dodging the fireball jutsus, Satomi being quick to avoid the wind bullets with their slicing maneuvers. Naruto would throw one shuriken into the air before performing the Shadow Shuriken clone jutsu, as thousand upon thousand of shuriken would begin to rain upon Satomi. Satomi with two kunai in hand, her Sharingan fully activated, would begin to swat away at each of the kunai and shuriken that came falling down towards her. However, she would be cut in the arms and legs a few times. Satomi would come back with her own rebuttal, as she would go moving towards Naruto, aiming for his vital spots, her kicks and punches being methodical in beating him down. Naruto would respond in kind, slamming her into the waters down below. As she and Naruto would continue their fight, it seemed as though neither one could gain the advantage for too long. Naruto tapping into more and the more power of the Nine Tails, while Satomi was tapping into more and more of the power of the curse mark. Until ultimately, Satomi would appear behind Naruto, kicking him in the back of the head and sending him flying into the ground. As Naruto would get back on his feet once more, Naruto would just continue his assault, the power of the Nine Tails leaking into the point where a cloak was being formed around him. He started to become too fast to see with the blind eye, even for a Sharingan. As Satomi began to start to lose the advantage, as Naruto was beating on her more and more, his violent side starting to come out. Satomi starting to become fearful of what it was that Naruto was starting to turn into. Her body was also responding kind to what was happening around her, as soon she would have to respond with her own sense of violence. Using everything she had, she would catch Naruto off guard before beating him down into the ground once again, lifting him up into the air as she formed a Chidori in her hand. Satomi had now become bloodlusted. Almost losing her senses completely, she would plunge her Chidori into Naruto's chest, her arm appearing on the other side. Unknown to her, another part of her psyche had stopped her just in time, missing Naruto's vitals, but still leaving a devastating blow. Satomi hoped that this would be enough to slow Naruto down, as she would let him fall into the waters. As Naruto went deeper and deeper, in his own subconscious, the Nine Tails would urge him to continue fighting, not for the sake of Satomi, but the Nine Tails' own pride would not allow his host to fail so easily, as he would pour more of his power into Naruto. Naruto would come flying out of the waters, now completely enveloped in a new and gushing aura of the dark and the sinister chakra within him. As Satomi turned to see what Naruto was becoming, she would just be left in awe. What? I stabbed you. I stabbed you in the freaking chest. How are you still able to keep fighting? Just what the hell are you? I'm your friend. Why? Why, Naruto? Why won't you let me cut you down already? It's taking everything I have not to kill you. Why are you going so far? Why are you trying to throw your life away? Satomi, No, Naruto! No! Why are you doing this? It was my family that got killed, not yours. Why do you care so much about me? What is it about you? Why are you so obsessed with my life? Let me go already. Satomi, I can't. What? I can't do that. I can't let you go, okay? Why? Why won't you let me go already? I don't want to kill you. I don't want that. You'd be better off without me. So why? Why won't you give up? Satomi, I love you. I think I've loved you for a long time. You were always there for me when I didn't have anyone. And when you lost your family, all I wanted to do was be by your side. Satomi, I can't help it, okay? When I see you in pain, it hurts me. It hurts me to a point where I just can't ignore you. I could never ignore you. You're right. I didn't lose my family. I didn't grow up with a mom or a dad. I didn't know what it was like to even have one. But I had you in my life. And soon I had Iruka Sensei, and Kakashi, and Sakura, and so many friends that I've made since then. But Satomi, I can't lose you. I love you too much to let Orochimaru ever have you. But Naruto, what if you die? Your dream, you want to be Hokage. You can't become Hokage if you're dead. You're right. I can't. But you know what? If I became Hokage and I couldn't save you, how could I ever look at myself in the mirror? If I can't save the person who means the most to me, then I don't deserve to be Hokage. That's why I'm not letting you go. I'm going to stop you. Even if I have to break myself over and over again. Even if I die here today. I'd rather die than let you go. Satomi would be taken aback by Naruto's words. Deep within her own heart, she too could not deny the feeling that she had for Naruto. It took a while for her to truly admit it herself, but even she had to admit that she too loved Naruto. As her eyes would slowly begin to change into that of the three Tomoe Sharingan. Her Sharingan had now been changed, but not out of hatred or anger. It was changed out of love. As her mind began to be filled with clarity, she couldn't help but feel extreme guilt over what she had done. All she wanted now was to go back home with Naruto. But could she? Could she ever go back after everything that she had done now? Naruto would try to pull in the power as he walked closer towards her. As Satomi would begin to cry, Naruto would hold her in his arms, and he would assure her that everything were going to be fine. That if she ever felt that there was too much for her to bear, then she should let him carry some of that load. As Satomi would hug back Naruto, seeming as though all was going to be well, another figure would enter into the battlefield. As the two would see who it was, their eyes being filled with nothing but pure dread. For the man standing across from them was none other than Itachi Uchiha. Naruto, little sister, am I interrupting something? Naruto and Satomi would stand together across from Itachi. Itachi's eyes still being as cold as they were before. Satomi and Naruto would be standing together, their hands firmly locked with one another. As their power was beginning to flare once more, the two of them knew that it was going to be all out. It was everything or nothing now. There was no way they could outrun Itachi. In terms of power, he had them beat. If they fought alone, they wouldn't stand a chance, but together Together, they just might have a shot. Itachi would ask if they were truly foolish enough to fight him. Naruto would be the first one to step up. He would tell Itachi that he wasn't going to have control over Satomi anymore. That she had people that loved her now, more than he ever did. Itachi would tell Naruto to watch his words. But Naruto would simply continue to rise in his power. He would tell Itachi that he was never going to let anyone take her away, and that he would rather die here than now than let that happen. Itachi would simply say to Naruto that he would simply die, and he would die foolish than most. Satomi would give in to her own power as well, knowing that she was going to use every ounce of the Curse Mark's abilities, as her skin would begin to change, and she would begin to grow wings. Naruto being enveloped in the full cloak of the Nine Tails. As 2 tails would begin to sprout, Naruto and Satomi's hands, a strange new power would begin to form. Naruto would form a vermilion-like Rasengan, and Satomi a Onyx Chidori. Their attacks would be combining into the point where it became one. Itachi would ask if this was going to be the best that they could do. As the two stood firm in their beliefs, the Onyx Chidori and the Vermilion Rasengan would morph until eventually it became one attack, burning so hot and brightly that it could feel as if they were burning through their own arms. Naruto and Satomi stood together, charging all of their power into their final attack. If they could move at a speed so blinding that even Itachi couldn't evade, then they were sure that they could take him out. As the two crouched down together, Naruto and Satomi looking at each other for what they believed might be the final time, Naruto would simply say, "Till the end." And Satomi would feel confidence in his words. As the two locked eyes onto Itachi, his eyes glaring with the Sharingan, ushering them to try it and come forth. They would do just that. They would move in a blur. Even Itachi would be shocked at this level of speed. Their power mixing and pouring together, it might be just enough. Even for Itachi, who had the battle under control, even he had to applaud them in their efforts. If he were any other shinobi, if this were any other ninja, they might have died here. But Itachi was not like most shinobi. As the combined power of the Onyx Chidori and the Vermilion Rasengan went to plunge straight towards Itachi Uchiha, a strange red glow would form around him, as an ethereal being would shroud him in protection. His Susanoo, it would block the attack. However, even as it stood firm, he would use the power of the Yadamir, his shield, shielding him from the attack. However, even as it did so, he could feel the force and the pressure that was being emanated from it. He could feel the intense heat from the attack. Even some of his cloak began to burn. However, the Susanoo would not be defeated, as the Yadamir would push back their attack, sending it back onto them themselves. In the aftershock, Naruto would grab Satomi and hold her in his arms, being sent back almost with the same force that they had launched towards him. Naruto went flying into the side of the mountain statues, As his body crashed into it, he could feel 3 of his ribs on his right side completely break, and 1 on his left. He could feel his leg and arm being broken in multiple places, his head smashing against the stone, rocking him and sending him into a concussion, knocking him out cold. Satomi would also be injured from the assault, however not nearly as bad as Naruto, as she could feel that Naruto had shielded her with his own body. She would try to see if he were okay, holding him close as she tried to check on him. No, Naruto, please, don't. You're gonna be fine. Please, don't die on me. Don't die on me. Don't die on me. It seems as though that was your final attack, little sister. Stay back! I'm warning you. Don't come anywhere closer to him. It is my job to capture Naruto. If you do not want me to take him, you would be wise to kill him yourself. Kill him and obtain the power needed. Shut the hell up! Shut up, you bastard! I am nothing like you! I won't! You won't do it? Then you will remain weak and foolish your entire life, little sister. I don't care! I'd rather be a fool than ever be anything like you! You killed Mother, Father, our clan. You've taken everything from me. I won't let you take him. I'd rather die right here and now than ever let you harm Naruto. Satomi would use the little string she had left to shield Naruto's body. As she looked up to Itachi, Itachi would be looking for something. He was wondering if he would see it. Her eyes would slowly begin to morph once again. A new pattern would form in her Sharingan. That was what he needed. He could sense that other shinobi would soon be approaching, and he knew he didn't have much time. He would activate his Mangekyo to its fullest extent as he entered into Satomi's subconscious. In her genjutsu, in her own mental state, Satomi would be lost in a labyrinth. She would be the age of a young girl, as she were running as if there was something after her. As she tried to hide away from the monster that was chasing her, the monster taking its true shape and form, it would be none other than Orochimaru. Ah, little Satomi, you can run all you like, but it is inevitable. You have nowhere to go, no loved ones, no family. I am all you will ever have. No, leave me alone. Don't come any closer. Do not fear, little one. I promise you, this nightmare will soon be over. Trust me. As Orochimaru had the young Satomi cornered in a dead end, Satomi would be cowering in fear. As Orochimaru got closer, before he could reach out to grab her, a crow would appear in front of him. What is this? Soon multiple crows would appear, and from them, standing between Orochimaru and Satomi, would be none other than Itachi Uchiha. Itachi, how did you get here? My power runs stronger than yours, you vile serpent. You have tormented my sister for the last time. You think you can get rid of me so easily? Don't make me laugh, Itachi. Orochimaru would be unable to move, paralyzed by Itachi and his Sharingan. I will expel you from this body, and you will never be able to enter into her mind ever again. Be gone, Orochimaru. Curse you, Itachi! Curse you! Orochimaru would be burnt away by the black flames of Amaterasu. The all-consuming flame. The black flames that would not stop burning until its target was completely gone. As the will of Orochimaru burned on the inside, on the outside of Satomi's body, a small black flame would appear where her curse mark was, as her curse mark would seemingly be singed off, until the only thing that remained was a scar, a patch where the curse mark used to be, as it had been completely burned away. Inside of the Genjutsu, Satomi and Itachi would come face to face with each other once again. Now left in a blank void, Satomi would ask what was going on. What had he just done? Itachi would explain that he had burnt away the curse mark and its influence, freeing her from Orochimaru. Satomi would ask why Itachi had done what he had done. She would ask why he would do something like that. She couldn't make sense of it. Itachi would tell her that now was not the time for questions, as they had much to discuss and little time to discuss it. He would show her the truth. He would show her his meeting with Danzo and his schemes. She would show Shisui Uchiha in his true death via suicide. She would see the conversation that played out between them. She would see the truth of the Uchiha and the reason for the Uchiha massacre. She would learn of her father's plans of the coup d'etat against the village. All of these truths would come to life. Once Itachi had been done showing her everything, Satomi would be left speechless, not knowing what to say. What could she say in this moment? Everything that she thought she knew was nothing but a lie. She would ask Itachi why things had to be the way that they were. Itachi would explain that he did what he did for the sake of the village, for her and for Naruto. Surely, had a civil war broken out, the Leaf Village would have been susceptible to invasion, and there was no telling what would have happened. He would also tell of Danzo and his schemes. He would warn her of the foundation, of the root. He would even reveal that Danzo was the one who was behind leaking Naruto's status as a Jinchuriki, and that was what brought him the ire of many of the other people in the village. Satomi, her mind would be shaking at these revelations, learning that her brother was not truly the monster she believed him to be, but that everything he did for the village. However, Itachi would explain that in the end he was wrong. He had tried to handle everything himself, and ultimately it failed. Had he been honest with her before, maybe she could have helped stop father and his ambitions, and maybe they could have saved their clan. However, Satomi, she had made new bonds. as she would then think of Naruto. Itachi would tell her that Naruto was alive, but he needed medical treatment immediately. As Satomi would ask what he were going to do now, he would simply give her a warning. He would tell her that he didn't expect her forgiveness. He knew that they could never go back to things being the way they used to be. But no matter what may happen, he will always love her. With that, he would prepare to exit the Genjutsu. He would tell her finally that he were a part of the Akatsuki, and that they planned to capture all of the tailed beasts, including Naruto. He would tell her to keep them safe, to keep him safe from them. Satomi would soon exit out of the Genjutsu, as Itachi would soon leave the battlefield, completing what he had been setting out to do. Before he left, he would give her one final thing. He would help train her to make sure that she were ready, as he would give her a crow that would have the eye of the Sharingan. It would enter into her mouth. He would reveal that that crow had everything that he wished he could have showed her, as well as the Sharingan of Shisui Uchiha. With the power now within her, Itachi would leave, disappearing into the shadows. Satomi would be left with Naruto in her arms, as soon Kakashi and Anko would arrive, along with other medic ninja, who would take the two genin back to the village. As everyone would have returned, Choji, Lee, Sakura, Naruto, and Satomi, as well as Kiba and Akamaru, would be in a long-term emergency care, as they had suffered the most damage from the mission. It would be touch and go for a while, as some were in critical condition, but all would be able to pull through in the end. After some time of rest and recovery, Kakashi would go to see Satomi to see if she were okay, as he had noticed the curse mark was gone from her body. She would tell him of something that would be rather urgent, and soon he would have to call in Lady Tsunade, as she would have to hear this information also. Satomi would tell of her and Naruto's fight with Itachi. She would tell of the shocking truths that had been revealed to her. Tsunade would be completely stunned to learn of Danzo and his treachery against the Uchiha clan. Things now starting to make sense. Now why the third Hokage had been adamant in watching after the two children, to keep them safe from Danzo, who planned to use them for his own gains. Of course, there was no solid evidence, and they were still skeptical of Itachi, but this sounded too much like truth to be brushed off. In the meantime, Tsunade would have a brief talk with Jiraiya, and Jiraiya would tell her to watch after Danzo, as he was someone who was not to be trusted. Slowly but surely, everyone would recover, and soon they would be discharged from the hospital. Naruto would get a visit from Jiraiya, as Naruto would still be recuperating a little. Jiraiya would tell Naruto that in a few months, they would be leaving for a training trip, as Naruto was going to need some time to rest, and they would be leaving sometime after the winter festival. They would be gone for about 2.5 years, as they were going to be going on their own training trip, as they needed to get Naruto ready, because the Akatsuki were going to be coming, and he had to be ready for when they came. Naruto would agree, And before leaving, Jiraiya would tell Naruto good job, congratulating him on bringing Satomi home. Soon time would pass, and the winter festival would be upon the village hidden in the leaves. Jiraiya would have somehow convinced Tsunade to go out with him that night. They were just going to go get some drinks and enjoy the fireworks, but still, it was nice to have quality time together. Kakashi went with Anko, Rock Lee went with Hinata. Kiba somehow convinced Sakura to go with him, but she told him that he had to leave the dog at home. Akamaru being left, as Kiba was finally going to get a chance to go out with someone that he actually started to come to kind of like a little bit. Sakura didn't really see much in it either, but she didn't have any plans, and Kiba wasn't all that bad, although she wished he didn't smell like dog all the time. Neji would be spending his winter festival with Tenten, as she was someone who he could tolerate. And finally, Naruto would be spending his winter festival the way he always did, as he went with Satomi. The two would enjoy the festival down in the village square below. They would go out to eat, and they would see the various attractions all around, the village being adorned in light. They would soon find their way back to their spot. It would be under that tree that they had met at that winter festival all those years ago. The first time that they had ever met. The two hadn't talked about Naruto and his love confession, and it seemed to be a bit awkward whenever they tried to initiate conversation around one another. However, pretty soon the two would end up laughing it off, as they felt as though things were almost back to normal once again. As Naruto and Satomi sat under the tree, looking up at the full moon that shined down upon the village, as the fireworks were about to begin once more, Satomi would ask Naruto if he truly meant what he said, if he truly would give up his dream of being Hokage for her. Naruto would look back to her as he smiled. He would tell her that he would do it 1,000 times over. Satomi would ask genuinely why he would do such a thing. Why would he give up the dream of being Hokage, something that he had wanted for so long? Naruto would simply tell her that while it was true that he wanted to be Hokage more than anything, in the end, he felt as though he had found more reasons to live than to just be Hokage. In all honesty, at first his dream to be Hokage were merely selfish. He wanted the village to acknowledge him, to acknowledge his existence. But then, as he thought about it more and more, before the village ever acknowledged him, she was the one that acknowledged him first. And if he couldn't save the first person that truly acknowledged him for him, then what right did he have to be Hokage? Sure, it was his dream, and it was a dream that he had always wanted. But deep down, he had come to learn that sometimes, in order to do what needs to be done, one has to give up those dreams. Satomi would be surprised at the wisdom Naruto was speaking. He sounded like a man beyond his years. She would tease a little bit, saying that this wasn't the Naruto that she had come to know, not the goofy, knuckle-headed ninja, and that he was actually starting to sound like a real Hokage. Naruto would blush a little at this, as Satomi would tell him to never do something so foolish ever again. And Naruto would chastise her just the same, not to be so foolish herself. As the two were now just merely inches away from one another, as the fireworks began to illuminate the background between them, the two would lean forward, and for the briefest of moments they would share a kiss, It wouldn't be long or overly done. It would just be a simple kiss. One that would be the first of many. Soon, the winter festival would come to an end, and it would come time for Naruto to leave, as he and Jiraiya would be setting off on their training journey. As they were preparing to leave the village, all of Naruto's friends would be seeing him off. They promised that they wouldn't be slacking off either, as they had their own plans to train and get stronger as well. Naruto wishing all of them the best of luck. As Naruto and Jiraiya were about to leave, Naruto would rush back to Satomi one more time, who tried to look nonchalantly as Naruto was leaving. He kissed her on the forehead, telling her that he'd see her again. Satomi turning bright red as Naruto would smile his cheeky grin, as he would rush back to Jiraiya as the two made their way out into the world. This was not the end, but it was merely the beginning, as more challenges would come their way. Many more obstacles that they would need to face in the future. However, no matter what might come their way, no matter what they might have to endure, in the end, both Naruto and Satomi knew deep down that they could get through anything as long as they stood together, because they knew that no matter what, there would always be the other one who would be watching over them, the other one who would never give up on them, and the one who they knew they truly loved. This concludes Naruto Yokai Part 7. What if Saskue Uchiha was a girl? The finale. Thank you to everyone who supports PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. As always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned for What If One Shot Episode 4 that will be coming out tomorrow morning, as well as What If Naruto Was in High School DxD, the movie, Sins of the Past Part 3, the finale, that will be coming out on Friday evening. As always, don't forget to check out other episodes and videos on PowerCore Productions and Podcastings, and that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings, signing off, and I'll see you next time.